Good morning, guys. Back to the vid today. This one's not really on the gameplay, as the title suggests. It's gonna be more about how I set up my scouts and the basic kind of crew setups I'll go with, or usually would go with, if the crew wasn't already from a different tank. So, yeah, something to just get into real quick. It's not always the best to look at my crew skill setups, and the progression of them, and that's just mainly because a lot of them come from other tanks that I've played prior to getting into light tanks. So the crew skills and how they were unlocked is not really in the order that I'd recommend. So the basics of it basically, that's confusing, but obviously my first couple of skills are going to be stuff like, first one, Sixth Sense. Pretty important in light tanks to know when you're spotted, and yeah, just leave it at that. You want to know when you're getting looked at by enemy tanks. It's pretty key to know when you're safe and when you're not safe, and when you should be moving. Then obviously Brothers in Arms. It helps basically everything out on the crew, everything, literally. So those are the first two, always, every crew. That's every tank class, to be fair. It's not just scouts. But after that, I generally go with stuff like probably situational awareness or camo. Just one of those two usually. But that kind of brings to the point of, after that, I usually progress switching off between view range and camo perks. Alternating between the two as I go and unlocking more of them. And then as I start to run out of those, so like the camo perks, like Green Thumb, stuff like that, there's a few others. One I highly stress that you do not, I repeat, please do not put it on your light tanks, is silent driving. It makes zero difference on light tanks. None. And that's because what it does is decreases the detection on the move of your tank. And light tanks already have that as a perk of being their class, is that they don't lose camo factor while they're moving, basically. So, kind of a pretty important thing. You don't want to waste crew experience on a tank or on a perk that's just pointless. So, if you didn't know that, I think that's fairly decent common knowledge. But if you didn't, don't use that perk on lights. Just don't. But yeah, like I said, I usually switch between the camo and the view range perks after I get Sixth Sense, Brothers in Arms. And then after that, I will start looking at gun handling perks, usually. So stuff like Smooth Ride, and yeah. And then kind of alternate with those sometimes, and it's also kind of key, I guess. You could even train these a little earlier if you wanted to. If you feel that the view range is a little less important, I don't know. But it's personally just my experience. Is that you could also start training stuff like repairs, or a track mechanic, and like firefighting, stuff like that. Now, some people may say like repairs on a light tank or like if you're maybe pointless, but my viewpoint on it is that if you're a tracked light tank, you're basically sitting still and you're an easy target. So it just gives you that extra survivability factor if you've already burnt your repair kit. And it's pretty much, it's saved my butt a few times, but again, it's not something I really prioritize getting right away. It's just not. Those are some other perks that I kind of wait till the end of, or after I've done some of the more main ones that are more beneficial to scouts, like I said, like the view range and camo and gun handling, stuff like that, that I'd much prefer to have. And so yeah, that's just basically my crew progression. It can vary a little bit, depending. But again, don't look at my crews because they're kind of funky in that respect. that I played other classes before that. So that's why I just want to do this video, because I know I've gotten several crew questions about scouts and why I have some crew skills on tanks. Like, yeah, doesn't make any sense to have. But as we do a wall right here. Yep. But there's more to setting up the scouts than just crew skills, I guess. Those are the obvious. But then you also have stuff like the equipment. I get asked about equipment on my lights and tanks fairly often. I'll just put my scouts. I almost always are running gun rammer, optics, and vert stabs. That's usually for the single shot guns. Autoloaders, you obviously can't run gun rammer, so I switched that out for vents instead, just to get that extra boost again. Some people could argue you could use vents all the time, instead of maybe vert stabs or something like that. Or even optics, you could actually, if you max out the crew skills and have food or something like that, you could actually max out that. But I prefer to have the food and stuff like that. So just kind of my personal preferences to how I set it up. But yeah, like I said, my main scout setup are those two. And then the equipment, or not the equipment, the consumables. This vid you're seeing the small repair kit, med kit. I actually recently switched those. That was just me being lazy from years ago, and I never really bothered to change them. But the other day I went through and just bought a crap ton of large and small and repair and med kits, and put them on basically all my tanks, which is kind of what I recommend. It's just easier. You don't have to deal with the wonky repair wheel that we have currently. I know it was fixed, quote unquote, a couple months ago, something like that. But I just recommend those because you can just press a button and it fixes everything like that. So I just would prefer that, quick and easy, rather than trying to struggle with a repair wheel. Just my preference. And then I usually run food on most of my lights as well. Yeah, just to get that added bonus on everything once again. So having the stuff that really benefits everything is always good. That's why I said, like Brothers in Arms, I like, you know, having food. I don't run vents that often, just because I like the other setup better. It fits my kind of style, being that super aggressive kind of scout that we all kind of know I am, sort of. So, yeah, that's my general setup and consensus on how I set up everything for my light tanks. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. Another thing that you see in this vid, I highly recommend, and I'm just awful with keeping camos on tanks, even though I have a crap ton of silver now, is put camo on your tanks. It adds, I believe it's 5% camo value to your vehicles. So again, for lights, that's pretty important, and I highly recommend doing that. I'm just terrible at it, of keeping it on there, just because it's not something I notice explicitly all the time, but I know it's there. And yeah, it's just something good to practice. But yeah, I'm gonna try to do some more vids like this. I hope this is kind of helpful. And we just missed the ram. We're talking a little bit about the gameplay right now, but yeah, I'm gonna try to do some more helpful vids like this. I know recently it's been a lot of just, here's the gameplay, this is an epic game or whatever like that. So get away from that a little bit. I'm still gonna have that, still want to do that, but I want to try to give you all some more beneficial like tips and just insight, I guess, into what I'm thinking or what my setups are and stuff like that. So I know I get asked this a lot, so I just wanted to cover it in a very quick video because it's not that much info, at least that I think. You could probably get real in-depth with setups and all that kind of stuff, but I'm just not, that's not me. I had my basic kind of ways to go about things, and it kind of applies to every light I play. and I don't think about it too much. Kind of mimics my gameplay style. I don't really explicitly think about what I'm doing. At least I don't. It's more just how I feel about it, and I guess that kind of just works for me. It depends. Maybe you do want to have that setup where you have vents instead of something like optics or vert stabs, but I prefer having the rammer vert stabs set up. It also kind of fits my style of having the what the hell, more aggressive kind of damage dealing setup. There's kind of a notion of also you could set up tanks or light tanks with the on paper variant that you may see, which is Binox and Camonet to spot. But I just don't recommend that, especially with the issue with bushes that we have on console. Thanks to a certain platform may or may not be holding us back. But yeah, I don't recommend that just because it doesn't really benefit you on all the maps. That's kind of my reasoning. I'd rather use stuff that I know is going to benefit me every game versus stuff that may benefit me every once in a while, if that makes sense. I'd just rather have something like that. I think even like Swindle said something along those lines, one of his vids or a couple of his vids. That I'd just rather have stuff that works 100% of the time versus maybe 30% of the time, 50% of the time, depending on what map you get. So it's kind of a reason why I don't run Camonet or binos on like any of my scouts. And again, it's probably also to the fact that I'm generally a fairly aggressive light player. I can sit in bushes. I do use bushes on occasion to get those swatting damage games, but most of the time I'm on the move. I'm active scouting, trying to deal damage, stuff like that. So it doesn't really fit my kind of play style. So yeah, that's kind of the reasoning and the thought process behind how I'm setting on my light tanks. And hopefully you enjoyed, and I will catch you next time. See ya.
Ennemi détecté. L'ennemi nous observe. On les a eus.
Good morning, guys. Back to the video.